at America. Selamat datang juga untuk teman-teman mahasiswa Universitas Indonesia. Apa kabar semuanya hari ini? Hope everyone doing well and staying safe. So my name is Hasna. I'm one of the guests here in America. And for those of you who are new here and have no idea what At America is, well, At America is the US Embassy's American Center, and we provide a space for young Indonesians to learn more about the United States, to explore immense possibilities, experience various programs, and express positive emotions. While this place will allow you to explore, experience, and express, we are also ecstatic to welcome you to today's event that will be having INNOTalks Empowering Studentpreneurs. And this event will let you evoke, evolve, and elevate. But before we begin, we will have an opening remark that will be delivered by the President Director of INNOVARE UE 2023. Please give a warm welcome to Mikio Tezan Justin.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speakers, guests, and future studentpreneurs. On behalf of the entire organizing committee, I, Mikiotes and Justin, warmly welcome each and every one of you to this much anticipated and the very first event of INNOVARE Universitas Indonesia 2023. We are truly excited to have you join us today at the prestigious At America here in Pacific Place as we embark on a journey of empowerment and innovation. As the President Director of this esteemed committee, it is my honor to stand before you and introduce our theme for today's panel discussion, titled Empowering the Next Generation of Studentpreneurs. This theme holds great significance as we explore the fascinating correlation between entrepreneurship and students. We firmly believe that the young minds of today have the potential to shape the future through their entrepreneurial spirit. The theme of this event reflects our aspirations, our hopes, and our shared vision for the future. It is a reminder that each one of us has the power to make a difference, to create a positive change, and to shape the world around us. We believe that by coming together, pooling our collective wisdom, and engaging in thoughtful discussions, we can pave the way for the brighter tomorrow. And to fellow students out there, unleash your inner entrepreneur. Our purpose for being here today extends far beyond the mere comedy of an event. We are here to create an environment where ideas are nurtured, innovation is fostered, and connections are forged. This event serves as a platform for the exchange of knowledge, the exploration of new possibilities, and the cultivation of meaningful conversations. Ladies and gentlemen, in the rapidly evolving landscape of today's world, entrepreneurship has become an indispensable skill set. It is crucial that we nurture the spirit of innovation among our young minds. It offers students the opportunity to not only pursue their passions, but also make a lasting impact on society. Now, students are no longer just seekers of knowledge, but they are also creators and pioneers of change. They possess an unparalleled drive to challenge the status quo, develop groundbreaking solutions, and turn their ideas into impactful ventures. Today, to provide a valuable insights on this remarkable correlation between entrepreneurship and students, we are privileged to have an exceptional panel of speakers who brings a wealth of experience and expertise to the table. Through their stories and thought-provoking discussions, we aim to inspire and empower the next generation of studentpreneurs in our midst. We are also fortunate to have a skilled moderator who will skillfully steer the discussion and ensure that every viewpoint is explored. As we embark on this exciting journey today, let us embrace the spirit of innovation. Let's seize this opportunity to connect, to actively participate, to share your insights, to engage in meaningful conversations, and to ignite our entrepreneurial aspirations. I'm confident that this event will not only enrich our understanding, but also empower each one of us to become the catalyst of change. Once again, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all our esteemed speakers, guests, and future studentpreneurs for being part of this significant event. Let us embrace the power of innovation and collaborations as we embark on this journey of inspiration, knowledge, and transformation. Thank you, and let the discussion begin.
Thank you very much to Mick for the wonderful opening remarks. And now, before we begin our session, we will have a little trivia quiz for you. And the question for today is, which of the following is not an advantage of entrepreneurship? Is it A, greater earnings, B, flexible work hours, C, self discipline, or D, lack of stress? You may type in your answer at any time during this session on our social media platforms. The lucky one who can guess the answer correctly will get a live shout out from us by the end of this event. Don't forget to do that because we really like to get everyone actively involved in this event. Other than that, don't forget to take a selfie and tag us on our social media platforms. And now, to begin our panel discussion, allow me to invite our moderator for today's session, a law student at University of Indonesia, Alia Elysia. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much for the MC for giving me the platform to speak here. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and to our distinguished speakers. My name is Ale Alicia, and I'm very honored to become the moderator of this event today. In this event, we are here in INNOTalks 1 with the theme of empowering the next generation of studentpreneurship. A lot of us are being here today. The reason why we are here today is because we dream on being entrepreneurs. But oftentimes, the question is, how do we achieve it? How do we start? And this is the perfect place for you to know your answers, to seek answers for your questions that you might have had all of this time. Therefore, right at this moment, we have three amazing speakers that will surely open your knowledge and share their valuable insights. Each speaker has their own outstanding backgrounds and for sure has unique perspectives and experiences to our discussion today, making this event truly exceptional. First of all, we will take a detailed look at our amazing speakers before proceeding to start to our talk show and to our discussions. Allow me to introduce Mr. Dennis Jatmatama. Mr. Demis Jatmatama is a data-driven business leader with a specific interest in cost efficiency, operational improvement, user lifestyle management, and user growth strategy, who has experience working in global tech companies and startups across ANZ and also Southeast Asia. Mr. Jatmatama is currently the VP of Business at Dana Indonesia. He holds an amazing educational background and experience. He is the alumni of Harvard Business School and the University of Western Australia and continued his journey by playing a role as the analytics lead at Uber before joining Dana Indonesia as the VP of Growth. Mr. Jatmatama will surely give us an insightful thought and knowledge. Please give a round of applause for Mr. Dennis Jatmatama. Hi, Mr. Dennis. How are you today? Thank you so much for being here with us today. Now, allow us to introduce our second speaker, Mr. Alvin Cahyadi. Mr. Alvin Cahyadi serves as the VP of Investment at AC Ventures, which the company is empowering entrepreneurs to transform lives in Indonesia and Southeast Asia. Mr. Alvin Cahyadi is bringing an extensive finance and research background to the firm. Before joining the company, he excelled as the management associate at Citibank, gaining valuable experience in risk and product management. Prior to this, he led a survey team for various research projects focused on Indonesian banking industry as a research assistant at the UCLA Anderson School of Management. Now, in addition to this, Mr. Cahyadi earned his bachelor's degree in business economics from the University of California, Los Angeles, whereas he sat on the board of the Indonesian Bruin Student Association. In this role, he organized student activities, managed relationships with the Consulate General of the Republic of Indonesia in Los Angeles, and excelled academically. He became particularly interested in startups democratizing access to finance after living 12 years in second-tier city in Indonesia and working as Citibank's consumer credit division. Since joining AC Ventures in April last year, he led the firm's investments in Indonesian startups Alami Sharia, Buku Warung, Julo, Coinworks, Oi Indonesia, and also Stockbed. With his experiences and knowledge, he will unlock your potential and will guide you to achieve your dreams and goals. Please give a round of applause for Mr. Alvin. Thank you so much, Mr. Alvin, for being with us today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Now let's get to our last speaker. Last but not least, we'll now introduce Mr. Harvey Chupak. Mr. Harvey Chupak is currently holding a position at Astro Indonesia as the Vice President of Product. By going through a long journey, he has definitely a great experience and skills. He went to University of San Francisco and earned his Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. And it doesn't even stop there. He even honored cum laude from his university. He continued his journey by holding a role at Tokopedia as a data analyst before he became its Tokopedia's head of product until he joined Astro Indonesia. With all of this combined, he undeniably has expertise, especially in business analysis. He will help you possess a strong blend of leadership, analytical, and business acumen, making you well equipped to drive product innovation, strategic decision making, and also business growth. All right, please give a round of applause for Mr. Harvey. Hi, Mr. Harvey. How are you doing today?
I'm good.
All right, furthermore, I would like to give my deepest gratitude for all of our speakers here today for giving and allocating your time and wanting to share your experiences to our fellow students right here from Universitas Indonesia and also all of our audiences from the online streaming as well. Furthermore, I will now let me ask our participants on how are you all doing today? Are you ready for this talk show today? Now, let's hope that there will be more spirit in the upcoming sessions. But how are you all today once again? All right, now that's the spirit. So now we will we will now start with our talk shows. Oh, mau diulang. Let's make sure that we give a good impression towards our speakers today. Yeah, give a round of applause as loud as possible. And how excited are you to be here today? Now that's the spirit. So now let's get to our insightful discussion and talk show. And without further ado, after hearing the great profile of our great speakers, we are going to have a panel discussion to have more interactive sessions with our speakers today. I would like to now ask several things to our speakers. Coming to our first question. When you become, for instance, an entrepreneur, there are several things that you need to, for instance, take note of. Like, how do you find the ideas to begin with? And in addition to this, once you have the idea, how can you build your brand awareness to achieve stable sales growth, especially in the context of disruptive technologies and digital innovation? Maybe you might as well can share successful entrepreneurial ventures examples that can leverage disruptive technologies. Maybe we can start first from Mr. Alvin Cahyadi, but in this matter, since Mr. Alvin Cahyadi is from a venture capital, we would also like to add how does this aspect play a huge role in attracting investors as well?
Wow, the question is getting more difficult than what it was given before. I know, right? But okay, so I think let me dissect the questions. I think there are three components here, right? And I think if we look at the questions just now, there are first, how do you come up with a good idea? Number two is basically at what part of the journey in your entrepreneurship does brand awareness start to matter? I think that's number two. And number three, basically, when you are doing this entrepreneur journey, would you at what stage do you have to really care about constant sales growth, right? And I think number four is obviously the additional questions that was just given to me. But I think number one, how to come up with a good idea. I think it always starts with your concern. So as a human being, there is no way that we are satisfied with everything that we have. From the way, I mean, like from the moment we wake up, from the moment that we sleep again, there must be a lot of pain points that we're experiencing. And I think that is essentially the bread and butter of making a business, right? You're trying to solve problems, you're trying to create value. And what is value actually? I think in technology, at least at AC Ventures, we believe technology should play a role in two things. One is to expand the market outreach of an existing service. So that such is the case of, let's say, Gojek, right? Essentially, from the people who previously couldn't access Gojek conveniently, now you can access that easily, right? So you expand the access. Number two is basically in terms of optimizing efficiency in the operation of the company. So a good example of this would be, let's say, eFishery, right? They just turned unicorn. I think that company allows the fishermen to operate at a more efficient cost structure, allowing them to have a greater business margin in their business. So I think always starts with what is your problem, what is your concern, right? And then also you have to align what are your expertise that essentially you can capitalize to build the business. So I think coming to question number two, right, on the brand awareness thing, I think brand awareness, it is a very important component, but I think I would like to take a step back and really dissect to like at what point does brand awareness become important? Because if you're a B2C business, business to consumer, right, direct to consumer business, and the B2B business, brand awareness may play a part, may play a significant role at the different state of the business. So if you're B2C, maybe at the beginning, you gotta have a strong brand awareness. For instance, like Astro, right? I think you gotta have the brand awareness since the beginning because you're really trying to grab the market attention. But if you're in the B2B business, because this is something that relates more to success, to trust, and stability of services. So I think brand awareness may play a part at the later state because I think the more important thing is for you to really build a strong product fundamentally, being able to serve your customers' needs, right? But generally, it is very important because brand awareness helps you to retain the customer, but also expand your outreach. I think number three, like constant sales growth, right? Constant sales growth, I think in the disruptive technology business definitely is the most important thing, especially if you're looking for funding from a venture capital. Because our job as a venture capital is really to select the idea that have some indications that it is being able to disrupt life of many people at certain level, right? And I think having demonstrated sales growth, especially during this time, right, where basically a lot of the companies are trying to fix their fundamental sales margin, net profit, EBITDA, cash flow, it is imperative for the company to continuously demonstrate that. And sorry, what was the additional question?
What factors attract investors the most in regards to the business that is owned by entrepreneurs, for instance?
Okay, so fundraising questions. Yes, of course. I think it really depends on what kind of investors that you're approaching, right? If you're approaching a sit round investors, it really comes down whether the people, the persons, the team behind the idea is believable, backable, have all the skill sets required to kick off this idea. But once you're becoming like a more growth stage, later stage company, obviously then the attention shifted from just merely the team, but to whether actually the business has proven fundamentally that there is a business to be made here. Business meaning, again, I think at every stage of idea, there is feature, there is product, there is business, right? Business basically when you are starting to monetize from your customers and being able to extract value from each of the activity that customers make in your platform. So I think it really depends, to be honest. But I think one common theme as a venture capital that we keep asking, regardless on what state, is really the team, right? Whether actually the founders of the company have the skill sets, backgrounds, networks, capability to really execute the idea.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alvin. Those are very insightful answers to actually have a concern for your businesses, to basically be able to identify the needs of your businesses, and also some fundraising tips coming from Mr. Alvin as well. Now, let's ask the same question towards Mr. Dennis. Um, Go ahead, Mr. Dennis, if you want to give your insight.
Okay. I think what Alvin mentioned is it's pretty well covered. In terms of the sales growth, that's more later stage. Brand value, 100% agree. Like right now, I look after the B2B business unit within Dana. And he is right. Trust, success rate, SLAs is what makes a B2B business. And all that is for later stage once you have launched a successful product. That's when you start thinking about testimonials and then building a brand around that. In terms of starting a business, just for full disclosure, I've never been an entrepreneur myself. But what I can say is I agree that you do need to come up with a solution for a real world problem. Now, I guess what that I guess the next thing that comes to mind for me is to ask yourselves as students, if you guys do really want to be an entrepreneur, how does going to university actually help you achieve that? That for me has always been something interesting, a thought in my mind as well as going through university. So yeah, these are probably the thoughts that I'd want to ask you guys to have a think about as well. As an entrepreneur, yes, you do need to have certain skills. You do need to solve a real problem. But is your university degree really helping you achieve that? In my case, personally, I do think there is value. But the 3, 4 years you spend in university versus starting a business, that's a decision that you guys have to take upon yourselves.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis, for your answer. Hopefully, we can all realize what are the benefits from our degrees that we have currently studying for years. Will it actually be beneficial towards the business plan or the business model we aim to have? Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis. And last but not least, let's ask to Mr. Harvey about your insights towards this question.
Okay, just to add a little bit color on what both the gentlemen has said. I think first of all, when you are trying to discover an idea, you need to understand and really think through if this is a problem that you inherently believe and internally believe. Because at the end of the day, if you want to found a company, you need to evangelize the idea, evangelize the problem that you're trying to solve. That's one. Second, you need to ensure that you are able to discover a customer base that have a very huge need of the problem that you're trying to solve. You cannot start a business and try to cover all Indonesia or literally everyone, right? So you need to be able to find that specific market. For example, for us in Astro, we saw that there is an opportunity in grocery online because it's not really a well-solved problem. You want to buy a veggies, but sometimes you are anxious that it will be delivered in 5, 6 hours. You want to buy ice cream in the middle of the night, but you cannot have that right before. So we find those customers. One of the principle and mantra that we always hold strong in Astro is we try to deliver not 5-star experience, but 7-star experience. Because if you are a customers, you don't find any issues, then you put 5 stars in App Store or Play Store or whatever, right? But you need to awe them, you need to amaze them. So we create, first time we release this, customer gets the order in 15 minutes. They can take a screenshot of your apps, and customers themselves will take a screenshot, share on the social media, be proud about it, share their amazement, and etc. And that's where I think our focus should be at first. And then secondly, brand awareness, promotion, how do we increase growth? It will be the amplifier. But first thing first, you need to ensure your focused customer base is very, very happy.
Right, thank you so much. So if we look at the problems all around us, there are so many concerns and endless concerns. But the challenge here is for us to actually find that specific market, specific concerns in order to start our businesses in itself. Thank you so much, Mr. Hari, for that valuable insights. Now, moving on to our second question. A lot of people tend to say that what is most important about starting entrepreneurship is networking and also starting collaboration. Now, do you have any several tips or insights on how these two factors are significant to your businesses? Maybe this time I can ask from Mr. Alvin first.
Again? Okay.
Yes, no worries.
Yeah, I think there is I think it is really important network and having to know where to talk to, right, when you are facing a specific problem. But I think to me, at least from 6 years of doing venture capital, the more important thing is just really building that human genuine relationship with the people around you. And I think being able to consistently be there and be present to whoever it is, be kind to everyone, right? Because I think you don't know, maybe people who you don't think to be of value in your network right now can be someone who's very valuable 5, 6 years down the road, right? But it is undeniable, right, to say that essentially you gotta have the network, you gotta have the connections to be able at the right timing also to be able to start a business and grow it. I think an example, I think for myself also, when I joined in the venture capital world in 2017, I got into this gig basically because I was a friend. I'm a friend of a manager in Convergence Venture. Actually, to be more precise, the manager at Convergence Venture back then was the older sister of my high school friend. So from that connections, I got to know that there is this opportunity, and then I felt that their timing was right, and hence decided to take the leap of faith from city into into the venture capital world. But that is, I think, one example of how, just your network, you don't know, right, when and where, can suddenly become a valuable assets for you. So I think, advice for for all of you here, just be nice to everyone regardless of whoever they are.
Maybe more specifically, since most of our here are students, how do you give us recommendations on finding more and more connection at the university level, or maybe like activities that we can join to start our connections? Maybe Mr. Alvin can
Just
continue.
start with whatever you enjoy first, I would say, right? It doesn't have to be, really, really narrowed down to what you think to be valuable for your career, for your future, and whatnot. Just start with what you like first, because I think one thing that I learned in networking is frequency matters. And if you want to have frequency, you got to make sure that you do something that you like. So even at the soccer team, basketball team, whatnot, it doesn't matter. Just build genuine relationship, especially your students right now, right? You don't know, maybe like 5 years, 10 years down the road, that your basketball teammate suddenly becomes somebody who can be of value for you. So I think start with something that you like first if you're in the university.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alvin. So there's no specific recipe in finding networking or connections.
It's
Just
luck.
do whatever you like and you'll find it one day, hopefully. Thank you so much, Mr. Alvin. And next, we can ask Mr. Dennis for his experiences in partnerships and collaboration.
100% agree. Frequency does matter. And just exactly the same as how you build friends. The more you meet them, the more you get to know them, the closer you get. That is, when you guys do start working, networking is exactly the same. But going to, I think, one part of the question was to do with, some of the soft skills, I guess, about networking and entrepreneurship, and what are the needs of entrepreneurship for me. The biggest keyword, and I don't think it's limited to entrepreneurship, is for me adaptability and problem solving. Those two things um, is something that honestly I don't know if it can be taught. And you guys, like, if you guys have taught these soft skills to someone, please do share. But I personally think it's incredibly difficult. These two soft skills are probably not only what required to be an entrepreneur, but just to be a, whether you're in startup or entrepreneurship, whatever it is you do moving forward, these are probably the two most important soft skills in my perspective.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis. And lastly, from Mr. Harvey.
Yeah. So I totally agree. I think networking is very important. To give you more example, uh, when Astro first started, the first 50 employees in Astro, probably 90% of them, it's either friends or someone who has worked with the founders before, someone who has, to some extent, formed a bond and connection in working in high pressure environment. um, my tips, right? When number one is, of course, go out as much as possible, join organization, intern, whatever, but try to be helpful as much as possible. That's one. Don't watch too much Netflix, although I also love Netflix. Um, Number two is try to sharpen your ability to evaluate people in some level, right? You need to be able to find, I think there are three things you need to be able to find. One is intelligence. They're able to have a self-awareness on themselves. They're able to do self-reflection. Number two is drive. You need to find people who share the same, grit and perseverance in hard times. And number three is creativity. You need to be able to find people who always try to find ways in a very, very, very hard time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harvey. So all in all, just be nice to every single person that we meet. We never know what they're gonna be in the future. And most importantly, as students right now, most of us might have the tendency buat kupu-kupu aja kali ya. Stay at home, watch Netflix, but do understand that if you wanna be a successful entrepreneur, find as much as connections as you can. And you can start by the most easiest thing, by joining activities that you yourself enjoy. So thank you so much for all of the speakers right here. We're going to move on to our next question. So our next question is for um, what kind of advice that would you like to give to young or aspiring entrepreneurs right here, especially young professionals, on navigating the startup ecosystem and also seizing opportunities in emerging markets? So if it is okay for the committee, I'm now going to ask from Mr. Harvey first. Go ahead, Mr. Harvey.
Okay, so I think there are three things for me that personally is very, very important. Number one is, again, when you're starting a new job or new business, you need to ensure that you really think through and really believe in what you're doing. Number two is you need to be able to sharpen the way you communicate your ideas and be really clear about it, because usually my benchmark is, if you're trying to talk about your what you do to your mom, to your grandma, are you able to explain to them in 15 seconds, 20 seconds? Because if you will take half an hour to explain to your grandma what you're doing, usually that means it's unclear thinking. That's two. Number three is you need to be able to be prepared to face a lot of setbacks, a lot of failures. That will happen. But the question is, how will you deal with it mentally, and how will you set up a process for you to self-reflect, learn, and iterate and improve yourself continuously.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harvey. You mentioned about challenges. What kind of challenges do you often face in building your business? Like, what are the common challenges that might be useful if you might share to the audience right here?
Okay, so I mostly work in technology environment, but I'll avoid talking too much techy stuff. I think the biggest challenge is sometimes when you work at let's take Astro for example. It's a startup. I come from tech background, but sometimes I work with somebody from creative background, maybe from Danish marketing. We come from different perspective, right? So for me, the biggest challenge, especially when I first start, is how do I align my understanding? How do I align the goal? Right? Because there is usually a mismatch. And for me, the biggest solution is actually very simple. You need to over communicate. You need to over communicate your talks, your concerns, risks. Make it very clear at front. And by doing that, you'll be able to prevent, late issues, unwanted consequences, etc.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harvey. Based on Mr. Harvey's explanation, we do understand that communication is very important, not only in identifying whether our ideas are actually clear or not, but also in trying to discuss and trying to align the different ideas and perspectives that we might have later on from people with different backgrounds. Thank you so much, Mr. Harvey, for that valuable lesson. Next, let's ask Mr. Dennis about your advice towards all these aspiring entrepreneurs.
Sorry, just to clarify, if I remember correctly, the advice is specifically for becoming an entrepreneur, correct?
Yes.
Um, I think this kind of question kind of wraps up essentially what the three of us, have answered through the other questions, right? In terms of advice, first up, it's problem solving. And I think, like Alvin mentioned, if you have the right network and the right team around you, that's also a value add. One other thing that I think is something I learned personally through at least my professional career, the key word there is persistence. Um, like Harvey mentioned, there are lots of setbacks. Persistence is a key thing. Even for myself and my professional career, when I first started working out of university, I was a logistics coordinator, which is essentially customer service, more or less, for B2B partners. Um, I Before moving to Uber, I was rejected from about 3 or 4 different roles before ending at Uber. And when I joined, I asked the manager after 1 year of working why he hired me. It was literally because I kept applying and I didn't stop. So as an entrepreneur, I think one of the things that you have to be aware about, whether you end up becoming an entrepreneur or start a professional career, don't give up. It is a lot about persistence.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis. A lot of us here tend to face a lot of failures, but we don't know how to deal with it. And a lot of people tend to give up. And based on your explanation, resilience is very important. Do you have any specific tip on how do we deal with failures and that everything is going to eventually be okay?
Maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but for me personally, if there is a failure, you just deal with it, sleep, next day you go again. There is really not much more.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. I also hear that failure is actually a redirection to something better. So let's not all give up whenever we are faced with a lot of challenges, but rather let's learn from it and make it a part of our long journey, but hopefully successful as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis. And lastly, from Mr. Alvin, what are your advices for these aspiring entrepreneurs? How do we, for instance, build up our businesses and survive in this ecosystem?
Can I mix with bahasa Indonesia maybe?
Sure, sure.
So I think the most important thing adalah gagal sebanyak-banyaknya selagi masih muda. Because when you're young, your failure is cheap. But when you are older, when you're up there, your failure becomes expensive. And the best way for you to minimize your chance of being failure, to experience failure in the future, waktu udah gede adalah by experiencing a lot of failures in the beginning. Itu satu. Yang kedua, stay humble. Keep learning. Never think that never consider yourself as the smartest in the room. If possible, always think of yourself as the dumbest in the room. Because there are always people who can give you a knowledge that maybe you don't know before. Jadi yang paling penting itu dalam entrepreneurship adalah the ability to learn. The ability to admit that I am not perfect and I need to keep improving myself for me as a leader, but also for my business. So I think kalau misalnya once you basically feel that you are really up there, you stop growing. You will stop growing and that's not good. Terus mungkin yang ketiga adalah yang namanya sukses itu a function of preparation plus luck. Nah, preparation ini adalah frequency plus kamu harus tambahin juga opportunity, gitu kan. Jadi di saat kamu ada banyak frekuensinya, kamu banyak opportunity yang kamu coba, otomatis kamu jadi lebih prepare. Di saat prepare dan hoki kamu masuk nih, you got the luck that you need, itu baru jadi sukses. Nah, jadi kuncinya apa? Keep trying, stay humble, keep learning.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alvin, for that. Maybe more specifically, how do you, for instance, overcome the challenges? And for instance, you stated earlier on how we should not give up. What are your personal tips? Me from Mr. Dennis have delivered his own personal tips, but what is your personal tips for facing failures and rising back up? And also several important tips on staying humble, whereas maybe our environment might not be as humble as we are trying to, you know, distance ourselves from influences like that as well.
Iya, jadi pada dasarnya ada there is really no formula to that, and I think to me the most what I can say regarding how to stay humble in that environment, it really comes back of what your value is as a human being, right? Jadi yang paling penting adalah trust the process, gitu kan. Understand that in the process itself, you will never always be di atas gitu. It's a cycle. Sometimes you're up there, sometimes you're down there. So always remember if you're up there, maybe 2-3 years down the road you're gonna be down there. And I think for me, my personal experience, I've invested in various businesses that didn't work out. I lost money for on behalf of the firm, right? Because of my decisions, maybe the firm losing millions of dollars. Tapi at the same time, because from that failures, I learned from my mistakes. I tried to be better at investing. So I think hopefully ke depannya I can generate millions of dollars also, even more for the firm. Tapi waktu when I made the bad decisions in investments, of course I feel down gitu. Malu banget. I was so proud about the investment before, but then like it didn't work out. But then like I tell myself, right? It is what it is. Just move on, learn, don't repeat the same mistake.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alvin, for that insight. So, based on our speaker stories today, we do understand that there is no way to success if we haven't find failure or rise back from failure in itself. But what's most important is that if you do rise back from your failure, do stay humble and do realize that there are people around us that can do so much better and we can learn so much from them as well. Do realize that there is so much things to learn and what we have right now is simply not enough. Hence, to become better, let's all learn, and especially as students, once we graduate, it doesn't mean that our knowledge are already enough. Let's find other platforms, other opportunities to make ourselves exposed to more and more knowledge in the near future. Thank you so much towards all of our speakers today. Now, with our remaining time, we will give the opportunities for our participants here, either offline or online, to give questions to our amazing speakers here today. If you do have any questions, please do raise your hand and our team will prepare the microphone for you. Go ahead if anyone has questions.
Jangan susah-susah ya. I'm not good with questions.
All right, we have a participant right there, Kamti. Hi, thank you so much for asking. Maybe you can introduce yourself first.
Halo, nggak apa-apa kan pakai bahasa Indonesia?
Gak apa-apa, ya.
Halo semuanya dan pembicara yang saya hormati. Nama saya Felicia Putri Dewanto, dipanggilnya Felis, dari Universitas Prasetya Mulia, saat ini semester 4. Aku mau nanya, ini pertanyaannya agak database, jadi kalau dilihat dari BPS Data, tanggal 19 Desember 2022, jumlah entrepreneur Indonesia saat ini masih di angka 3,47%. Which means itu masih di angka 9 juta dari 273 juta penduduk Indonesia. Nah, based on various media, banyak media yang ngomong, buat kita jadi negara maju di tahun 2045, dibilang setidak-tidaknya angka entrepreneurnya itu 12%. Nah, kalau misalnya 12% di masa 2045, kalau dari data lagi, itu dibilangnya 2045 kurang lebih penduduk kita akan ada 324 juta. Berarti kalau 12% kurang lebih 38 juta. Ya maksudnya itu kalkulasi kasarnya seperti itu. Nah pertanyaannya adalah, in achieving those millions of entrepreneurs, kita udah lihat di sekarang ini udah banyak diusahakan sama pemerintah ya, kayak elevating program UMKM, gimana caranya udah banyak program-program buat nge-elevate entrepreneur muda, salah satunya juga acara ini pun udah mulai banyak di mana-mana. Tapi tuh pertanyaannya, sebetulnya yang kita butuhin buat achieve ideal of negara maju itu, kita itu butuh entrepreneur yang di UMKM, UKM entrepreneurs, atau startup entrepreneurs. Karena itu akan how we treat now, kondisi sekarang itu mungkin sedikit berbeda untuk sampai ke ideal situation itu. Nah kalau dari perspektif pembicara, which di backgroundnya di venture capital dan
Lu berarti bro. Question for you.
tiga-tiganya dong. Kan penasaran perspektif dari ketiga pembicara gimana sih soal hal ini gitu. Sebenarnya kita tuh harusnya fokus ke meningkatkan millions of entrepreneur UKM atau entrepreneur startup sebetulnya.
Okay, thank you so much, Felicia. Allow me to conclude the question, but first of all, let's give a round of applause for Felicia's question. So in short, Felicia is concerned that we need to increase the amount of our entrepreneurs, but more specifically, which should be prioritized? Startup companies or small and medium enterprises? Maybe now we can ask from Mr. Dennis first to answer that question.
Honestly, I'm not a specialist of any kind in terms of the numbers that you spoke of. But my takeaway from the numbers you shared is that this percentage, where it should be, I think you mentioned 12% of the population should be entrepreneurs. Personally, I think that will happen organically. That should happen organically. It's not something that is forced. Going to, I think, what I believe is the core of your question, should it be focused on UMKM or startups, like large-scale startups? I don't think there is a specific way. When you focus on UMKM, like there are lots of small, medium businesses that are entrepreneurs in their own right, but maybe the definition of entrepreneur in this day and age has changed. When a lot of people think about entrepreneurs, they think about, what are the big startups? What are the big ones that you see on the news, press releases? Whereas there are lots of small businesses. Let's say one of my colleagues at work, on the side, he sells T-shirts. He prints like Taylor Swift T-shirts, and he does that as a side business. So what I would probably summarize, in my personal perspective anyway, is that this 12% number can cover all ranges. There is no specific formula. What I do believe is that through the creation of these startups or UMKM businesses, you are creating more opportunities not only for yourself but for others as well. That's the thing that will probably bring Indonesia forward, in my perspective.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis. Maybe we can continue to Mr. Harvey.
So, kalau menurut gua sambil minum nggak apa-apa ya? Ya. Kalau menurut gua, I feel that it's more important to talk about whether the entrepreneurs are providing value rather than whether they are UMKM or startups, because there are a lot of startups that are there tapi actually not really solving any problem gitu. Meanwhile ada UMKM yang probably for example, ini gua ngasal ya, di Papua jumlah sabun yang dijual dikit gitu. Kemudian orang ini start selling more sabun di situ misalnya. Uh, for me, I think that's more helpful. Iya, gue nggak tahu kenapa kepikiran sabun. Udah mandi tapi udah mandi kok. Yeah, but so to add a bit on the topic of entrepreneurship, I feel that it's more important to talk about how do we increase, blended percentage of entrepreneurs in Indonesia in general, which I feel should come through how we shape our uh, education process as well. Uh, because I think a lot of things that we do today in education, mostly we don't really cultivate the mindset of trying to take risks, trying to think from against the norm, those kind of things. So I think that's revisiting and evaluating how we format our education process, so it will cultivate and increase more and more risk takers is important to increase the entrepreneurial in Indonesia.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harvey, for that answer. And lastly, from Mr. Alvin to answer Felicia's question.
Pertanyaannya susah ya, by the way. Thank you loh.
Pertama aja susah ya.
Iya. But gini deh, so your data is saying 9 million entrepreneurs. Tech entrepreneurs atau general entrepreneurs? General entrepreneurs. Do you know that there is 64 million MSME in Indonesia? Ada 64 juta MSME di Indonesia, 49-nya mikro, yang sisanya sekitar 16-15 jutanya itu baru di medium sama small-nya gitu. Jadi sebenarnya kalau misalnya kita definisi entrepreneur general entrepreneur, sebenarnya di Indonesia udah punya 64 juta. Now the question is, which one is more important? Menurut gue equally important dua-duanya. Kenapa? Yang namanya pertumbuhan ekonomi, if you want to see Indonesia to become a developed country, that means semua entrepreneurnya, semua roda gerigi perekonomian Indonesia harus well shaped, right? They have to be well shaped, punya akses ke capital yang lain-lain gitu kan. Sebenarnya kenapa sih sekarang kita nge-push banget startup digital? Karena kalau kita lihat dari 64 juta MSME yang kita punya, yang punya akses ke perbankan cuma 25%. Yang punya bank account mungkin cuma another 25%, yang nggak punya bank account sama sekali 50%. Sehingga mereka as a business, the MSME sectors are very underserved. Makanya we believe that with a digital disruption, we will be able to serve them, right? Kalau misalnya kita reflect deh juga in some of other benchmark countries, in America, in India, right? I think in India there are 100 unicorns. Tapi MSME-nya ada 60 jutaan juga gitu kan. So as a ratio, tetap harus ada traditional businesses that are being empowered by digital companies gitu. So I think in general, if you ask me like which one is more important, pushing the entrepreneurs in the traditional manner or maybe in the tech manner, the tech entrepreneurs should make a change so that the traditional ones bisa naik kelas juga. Pada dasarnya gitu sih. Jadi kalau ditanya sekarang mana yang lebih penting, ya equally important. Soalnya semua tech entrepreneur juga niatnya kan bantu UMKM. Gitu.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alvin. So to Felicia, I hope that our speakers answers our question. But most importantly, we do understand that all, and at the end of the day, both aspects are important, both traditional economies, MSMEs, and also the startup itself, whereas we can coexist and support each other more specifically. Do you have any follow-ups in regards to your question?
Yakin? Boleh loh.
Katanya di challenge lagi.
All right. Thank you so much, Felicia, for your amazing question. Now I'm giving the opportunities for other participants here to ask any question. Please do raise your hand if you have any question to our amazing speakers. Any participant? Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Fahri Dafar Rahman. I'm a second year aerospace engineering student. I'm not talking about microeconomy like Valis asked. I just wanna ask about how do you guys deal with a consistent? I mean, every young man has want to try everything that he smell, he see. I mean, we are a teenager gitu. Um, we want to try everything. Everyone knows that teenager has unstable emotions. So the simple question: how do you guys deal with consistency? I mean, yeah, a simple question.
All right, thank you so much for your question. So with the endless possibilities and endless options that we as university students have, how do we deal with consistency? That's a great question. Maybe we can start first with Mr. Alvin.
So I remember dulu waktu gue kuliah baru putus, ya. Gue ada masanya gue konsisten ke gym because I wanna be better, right? And I put a screenshot. Gue kayak wallpaper HP gue adalah if you wanna stop, remember why you started, right? Jadi pada dasarnya kalau dari sisi gue gini, di saat lu ngomongin soal konsistensi, pada it really comes back sebenarnya lu tahu nggak ini goalnya sampai mana dulu. Dan lu mesti percaya dulu bahwa ini goal yang lu mau achieve. Waktu gue kuliah baru putus, otomatis ya goal gue gimana cara gue bisa lebih ganteng supaya mantan gue nyesel, right? As simple as that. But now coming back to your question, you should ask yourself, right? Before starting something, is this something that I really want to do and I believe to be of value for me in the future once you achieve that? That's one. Number two, kalau misalnya lu punya ini deh, you have a trust issue on yourself. I don't think like regardless how strong my belief is in the value that I can generate from doing this, gue bakal tetap slack off. Get a partner. Partner will help you to basically get accountable. Jadi nanti ada yang ngecek. Misalnya kayak nge-gym gitu kan. Lu kok nggak nge-gym hari ini? So somebody will make you feel bad. And you'll be like, okay, I go to gym because I believe I need to be accountable to my partner. Gitu. Terus kalau misalnya gue pribadi, menurut gue sih namanya consistency itu sebenarnya it's important, but also another side of it adalah understanding when you have to stop and say like this is enough gitu. Soalnya you can keep doing the same thing over and over again, tapi yang namanya value kan diminishing return ya. Yang anak-anak FE, yang anak-anak ekonomi ngerti kan diminishing return kan, yang kayak chartnya. Nanti kalau misalnya udah diminishing return, ya mungkin kamu harus tahu, okay, maybe this is time for me to stop, allocate my time, my effort into something else. The same as entrepreneurship sebenarnya. Because not entrepreneur project tuh bakal sukses. A lot of them will face failure. And you just have to know when to say, okay, let's stop. And start over again, maybe after that with a new idea. When you basically udah be more ready. Something like that. Ya gitu aja sih.
Thank you, Mr. Alvin. So before being consistent on something, make sure that it is your goal because you don't want to be consistent on doing something that's not necessarily what you want at the end of the day. And also find a partner. And lastly, know when to stop. Thank you so much, Mr. Alvin, for that. Maybe next we can ask from Mr. Harvey. Thank you.
Okay, so mungkin kalau dari gua feedbacknya first is uh, you need to be able to understand your limit and be aware of yourself. Jadi mungkin a bit of a story. I have a friend yang dulu di company gue yang sebelum di Astro, dia hard worker banget and he's a star. Basically dia double promote lah, etc. gitu. Tapi dia selalu kerja Monday, Sunday, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. wake up work again gitu. And lama-kelamaan dia jadi kecapean gitu. And then jadi sakit, waktu meeting jadi nggak fokus, he doesn't understand his priorities anymore, he forgets his goal. Basically gitu. Jadi benar-benar udah nggak tahu, he just tackle head on everything gitu. Right? So what happens setelah itu ya dia sempat down, off dari kerja segala macam, but now he's okay again. Tapi kenapa dia bisa jadi okay gitu? Karena he realized that sometimes you need to understand when to chill out gitu. Kapan bisa istirahat, kapan bisa nonton Netflix bentar gitu. That's one. You need to understand your self limit. Second, you always need to understand the reason or the purpose of your hard work gitu. Bukan cuman karena trying to impress anyone else gitu. You need to understand that, you need to impress yourself before you impress other people dulu gitu.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harvey. So we do need to understand what is our goal, what is our intention, so that we can at the end of the day be satisfied for what we do. And also, what's also most important is rather than always being consistent towards your work, do have your me time as well and take a good care of yourself as well. Now, last but not least, let's ask Mr. Dennis, what's your tips on being consistent?
I 100% agree with Alvin and Harvey that it is about understanding the goal at first. But I do take a lack of consistency, and maybe if I can put a little bit of a spin and see it from a positive light, a lack of consistency for me could mean, and if you take it positively, it could mean that you have a hunger to learn as well. Now, for me, if you say lack of consistency is because you want to learn a lot, I don't think that's a bad thing. The way I think about it, but maybe if I can clarify, but what I would say is that if you feel that you are not consistent and not driving for the same thing because you feel that you have learned everything that you need to and what you're doing, you wanting to move on shows me that that's a hunger to learn rather than a lack of consistency. So maybe that's something you have to consider for yourself as well.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis. At the end of the day, finding your intention towards your consistency is very important to realize at first. So thank you so much, Mr. Dennis, for your explanation. Do you have any follow-ups? All right, that's enough. Thank you so much, and please give a round of applause for your question. Before continuing and giving opportunities to our offline participants here, we do have several questions from our online audience. So I'm going to ask various questions. Coming from first is from Hans. Hans has two questions. First is how can we commit to persistence and commitment while the business atmosphere is low after the pandemic? And second, being a studentpreneur, what's your tips on managing your time between business and studying? So maybe that might be relevant towards our aspiring studentpreneurs here. So maybe to answer that question, we can ask from Mr. Harvey first.
What's the second question again?
The second question is what's your tip about managing your time between studying and managing your business?
So for the second question, I think when I went to college, I don't really do part-time intern. That's a mistake, right? We should actually do that. But I have a lot of interns that I manage in Tokopedia, my previous company, and now at Astro I have one intern as well. What I observe from them is first, definitely education is the most important thing. So you need to stick with your goal and try to manage your time better for that, right? And then you need to, in your internship, ensure that you communicate and ask the expectation from your supervisor very clearly, because usually what I see is there's a mismatch in expectation over there. That's where things got fall down.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Harvey. So do prioritize your education first. Having a hustle or starting a business can be something that you prioritize second, but education comes as a priority. Thank you so much, Mr. Harvey. And maybe next from Mr. Dennis. Maybe if I can repeat the question first, how can you have persistence while the business atmosphere is low after pandemics? And second, what's your tips on managing your time between business and studying?
In terms of first one, I assume business atmosphere is looking for graduate jobs, internships, and so forth, or potentially even starting a new business. I can understand that businesses being slow could be due to a lack of consumer spending as well, given the economy. But I think that comes down to what three of us mentioned before, like how much do you believe in that end goal, whatever you're driving for. That is probably the thing that you have to go back to for you personally to understand that hey, I'm working for this particular goal and this is why I started, like Alvin mentioned, and then keep driving towards that goal. Going to the second point, essentially it's just time management, right? Now, time management I think can even be taken out of the context of being a student and entrepreneur. There are plenty of different kind of tools and guidelines that you can find online. But for me, I like to keep things simple. Literally every day, just have a to-do list, go through that to-do list, get it done. Um, Getting things done is the only way that you can start moving forward. The second you delay one thing, that causes a delay in another thing, and it just becomes a domino effect.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis. Maybe in regards to your to-do list, how do you deal with, for instance, attitudes of procrastinating or delaying your to-do list in itself?
Honestly, not a good candidate for that question because I tend to procrastinate a lot. But what you do need to understand is about prioritization. Um, there, you need to understand what matters. I forget what it is, but there's some kind of a chart where you can split up into four. There are things that are important and urgent, not important, urgent, and so forth. That is probably how I like to do my to-do list. Um, Pretty much how you split up your to-do list is to figure out, okay, what needs to be done now and is important is probably your first priority. The things that are important but not urgent, you can probably procrastinate and leave a little bit later. Obviously, it has to be done at some point, but you just have to find your way to balance your to-do list as well.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis. So basically, if you're looking for solutions for time management, you don't have to make complicated solutions. Having a to-do list works for Mr. Dennis and might as well work for you. But maybe what can be different is dividing your to-do list in itself into different priorities so that you still have time or you still have a space for yourself, for instance, to know that you can procrastinate and do this later because it's not within your priority at the moment. Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis, for that. And lastly, to Mr. Alvin.
Okay, I think questions number one is about how do you find persistence during challenging times. Sebenarnya the challenging times, if we reflect back, I'm a historian. I like to read history, right? This is not the first low cycle in our economy. We had the 1998, we had the 2008, we had COVID. Cuma kayaknya cycle-nya cepet aja, right? I think abis COVID 2021, 2022 because the Fed rate was so low, close to 0%, economy was so hot. Tapi sekarang kan tiba-tiba dinaikin lagi tuh. So it's like pushing on the brake on the economic growth, right? But one thing that I can take away from this is that market will come back. And when market comes back, you gotta be ready. Gitu. Lu harus siap dan cara yang lu siap adalah dengan cara lu persistent preparing yourself, trying to hone yourself when the market is low. Jadi sebenarnya kalau misalnya kenapa sih sekarang kamu masih bisa continuing doing what you're doing even though maybe what you're doing right now everything is failing? The answer is simple because I have a hope, right? And hope what drives me. The hope that the market will recover and the future will be better and I will be able to get past this winter, something like that. Jadi itu sih yang paling penting. Just always remember to trust the process and read history aja deh banyak-banyak. Soalnya semuanya cycle. Itu satu. Terus kalau misalnya question kedua, time management as a student entrepreneur. Ya, ini this is my very classical job to a lot of people, to a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Find a partner, really, because you only have 24 hours. But running a business may require more than 24 hours. Then if you find a partner, just split responsibilities and then add that with what Dennis just said, have a to-do list, right? Jadi seenggaknya apa yang kalian lakukan for the business is being amplified by the fact that there are 48 hours working on this dream. Jadi itu sih mungkin cara nge-split waktunya.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alvin. So when you feel overwhelmed and you think that you have to do everything by yourself, do take a moment and realize that you can have a partner to do it with you and have less burden in doing your business in itself. And do remember that in difficult times, what are we doing right now? What are we focusing on? Do not let yourself procrastinate and do nothing in difficult times, but do realize that we are only preparing for some time for something better. And that is a better future but because the market will always come back. Thank you so much, Mr. Alvin. So we're going to continue with our online audience. There's another question coming from Siti Amalia. And the question is, how do we find the right business opportunity to answer the need of people of a certain age group? But maybe in addition to this, there's a question from Muhtia Lukfi regarding what is your biggest fear when you decide to become an entrepreneur or, for instance, work in the field of businesses in itself? So in regards to this, maybe I'll ask from Mr. Alvin first. to answer the question? Or do you want me to repeat the question?
Yang pertama apa pertanyaannya? Yang kedua biggest fear.
Yang pertama is that basically how do we find the right business opportunity to answer the needs of the people?
Okay. Well, I think it start with the people, right? I think that's it, right? It's. I mean, you can do various researches, reading various potential problems to solve, but ultimately, you really gotta interact with your customers, and I think that's also the starting journey of this amazing platform and this amazing platform, right? I remember I think Dana back then, when they just launched, actually they were latecomers to the game because GoPay and OVO already grabbed some of the markets, but then like they just push through, bulldoze everything, and suddenly solve a lot of problems. And I think particularly back then is the QR thing, right? If I'm not mistaken, I forgot.
CPM.
Yeah, CDM, right? And I think for Astro, definitely through various researches, conversations with the customers, getting a lot of feedbacks and understanding, oh, this is actually something that people want during this time, and hence they believe that there is an opportunity to be made here. Jadi pada akhirnya, yes, you can start with researches to get a general grasp, like whether the market is big, whether this is something that is timely, whether the market timing is right or not. But ultimately, number two, to find the correct business opportunity, just interact with your customers as much as possible. So I think that's the first question. My biggest fear in starting business.
Yes.
I've never started business before, but I think from my experience interfacing with some of the founders that I'm handling, their biggest fear is actually not knowing what they don't know, because not knowing what they don't know usually leads to them making a bad decision. So I think it's my job as an advisor, as an investor, to keep telling them, okay, you should know this, you should know that, right? And it's a shared effort. Jadi kalau salah pun salahnya bareng-bareng.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alvin. Maybe next we can ask from Mr. Harvey. Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yeah.
All right. So first is basically how do you find the right business opportunity to answer the needs of people? And second, what's your biggest fear in starting your entrepreneurship journey?
Okay, jadi I think when you first start, definitely you don't have much data. All you have seperti tadi kata Alvin is research, right? So number one, definitely talk a lot with your potential customers, try to get a sense, right? Cuman I think what's most important is your ability to learn after you ship your products or business, right? You need to be able to set up a very clear and very fast process to measure your outcome, how you learn, and then iterate your business as soon as possible. Right? That's my tip. Yang kedua tadi apa, Sophie?
Facing your biggest fear in
Yeah.
starting your journey.
I never found any company as well. Right? What's my biggest fear? My personal opinion. It's I have interact with two great founders. One is Astro, second is Tokopedia. Both of them have one same thing. That is when you talk with them, and you can see in their eye that the conviction that they have for their vision is very, very strong. Like they are very sure that this will be a successful stuff. Like this will be the shit in Indonesia. So I think my biggest fear adalah I I never found an idea yang benar-benar make me be as fire as them. So that's one. Like you don't know if this is gonna be successful. You need to be very, very sure. Like you can give 110% of your all to deliver this stuff. Second is the fear that if you're not sure, then you cannot inspire other people, right? And as a founder, you don't execute alone. In fact, most of the time you don't execute, right? You need to give a very clear idea and vision so that other people can execute for you.
See, thank you, Mr. Harvey. So basically, your fears are related towards how confident you are towards the idea that you might have later on and ensuring other people on how this idea actually matters. And in terms of finding your, for instance, your concerns and finding solutions towards concerns by starting a business, you can do the simplest thing by doing research, desktop research, and talk to a lot of people, as mentioned by Mr. Harvey and also Mr. Alvin. Maybe last but not least to Mr. Dennis, would you like to add about this question as well?
In terms of the first question, honestly, for both questions, both Alvin and Javi have wrapped it up pretty neatly. The only thing that I'd probably add on to in terms of biggest fears for myself, again, very similar to Javi. I've never, much like these two, I've never come up with a business myself. But yeah, I think it is a lot to do with your personal belief. It's quite easy. Pretty much, when I think about businesses, any business that is easy to start is also easy for others to start. What you're actually looking for is by solving a real world problem, you're looking for something that is honestly the biggest ideas are the ones that are the least easy, the biggest problems in the market. And when you think about these biggest problems, they are not easy. And honestly, it'll probably scare a lot of people, including myself, right? So that is probably why, like Avi mentioned, you do need this deep conviction, this deep belief to keep being persistent, keep continuing.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis. It is very insightful to know that if we find an easy idea, it might be easy as well for other people to think the same way. So it's difficult to find a unique idea that can actually solve real world concern, real life concerns as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis, for that. And we're giving more opportunities for the offline participants to ask your question to our amazing speakers. Please do raise your hand if you have any question. We have two persons at the back, maybe from the committee. Please wait a moment. There's a technical difficulty with the mic.
Teriak aja, teriak.
Oke, halo. Sebelumnya perkenalkan, nama saya Sherry. Saya dari Universitas Indonesia. Di sini saya ada pertanyaan. Jadi dalam berinovasi, bisnis itu kan seringkali mengalami one hit wonder, di mana kita tuh ngetren bisnisnya itu cuma di awal doang dan lama-kelamaan trennya semakin menurun hingga mengalami kebangkrutan. Nah, untuk kasus seperti itu dari saya mau tanya nih, gimana sih strategi dalam membangun brand awareness dan juga penjualan dengan peningkatan yang stabil dan tetap bertahan di kala banyaknya pesaing? Terima kasih.
Alright, thank you so much, Sherry, for the
Pertanyaannya
question.
kayak buat management consulting tadi gitu ya, kayak McKinsey Bain aja.
Well, when we're talking about brand awareness and also in regards towards stable sales, it has been explained by our speakers here. But maybe you can give insights about one-hit wonders businesses and how to recover back or basically bring back our existence in the market in itself for greater output. So maybe I can ask first from Mr. Dennis.
Honestly, when you mention one hit wonders, and guys, maybe help me because my memory's a bit fuzzy. At the start of COVID, there was this one kind of chat platform. Lots of founders jumped on to do calls with a lot of people. No, it wasn't on Zoom. It was a separate kind of website where it was referral only, invite only. Yes, Clubhouse. So back at the start of COVID, there was a platform called Clubhouse. It was very exclusive to begin with. If you were only if you were invited, I think you can only refer up to 10 people. Some people ended up even selling some of these referrals, and that's probably a entrepreneurship type mindset being shown there as well. But why I raise this is the issue with one hit wonders is that yes, there's a lot of traction. Maybe they don't generate money, but there is a lot of traction. But then it dies off. Now the issue there is that, like we mentioned before, they don't solve a real problem. It's pretty much what they were doing, what founders were doing. It was a online platform to essentially run some kind of a chit chat talk show. But Clubhouse itself didn't generate any money. It didn't generate value. They didn't get to a point where it generated value. And because it lost its kind of exclusivity type factor, it died down just as quick as it came up. So that's what comes to mind. So to answer your question, it comes back to solving real world issues.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis. So basically, if we do have a solution that solves real world issues, it might be more sustainable in regards towards or when compared towards the scenario that was explained by Mr. Dennis. Maybe to add up from Mr. Alvin first.
Ya, jadi mungkin pada dasarnya kembali aku akan mengambil taking a perspective from history, right? Silicon Valley, 1990 something. I think the one that got funded and making a lot of money is the semiconductor businesses. And then suddenly the rise of Amazon, Google, and whatnot, right? And then the rise of another startups, right? maybe Snapchat and all that. But I think if we look at it, people reward different thing at a different period of time. Jadi kayak what people are willing to spend on juga berubah. So I think a good example of this, if you were born around my age, right? I think Nokia dulu terkenal banget, ya kan? But basically because they fail to innovate, because they fail to listen to the customers and follow the trend, sekarang mereka kalah market share. They got bashed by Samsung and Apple. Kenapa? Pada dasarnya karena berhenti berinovasi aja. Amazon, right? Amazon waktu awal pertama kali toko buku online. Habis itu jadi general marketplace horizontal, habis itu terakhir jadi AWS, Amazon Web Service. That I think right now is generating a significant amount of revenue for the business. Terus apalagi ya? I think Google start as a search engine just organizing information now, making money from advertisements, right? Jadi pada akhirnya ini kembali lagi ke poin saya gitu. As an entrepreneur, you gotta keep learning, you gotta keep seeking for new opportunities. Because if you fail to innovate, then you basically you're basically setting up yourself for failure. Then what is the best business strategy on this? I think the best business strategy, I really value what Dennis just shared. I think you really have to, in each innovation that you make sure that the innovation delivers value to the customers, and value can only be can only be justified if there is a willingness to pay. Tapi pada dasarnya jadi kayak terus berinovasi aja. That's business.
All right. So what we can learn from Mr. Alvin is that in order to give value towards our customers, we need to keep innovating and giving what they actually need. And if it might, for instance, require adjustments, then we need to innovate and never stop innovating and adjust towards several changes in itself. Thank you so much for that. And lastly, from Mr. Harvey to answer that question.
Yeah, I think untuk mungkin gua add a bit color. There are two important mindsets that we need to make sure we have. Number one itu adalah we should always think about when we're starting a business atau kita udah ada bisnis gitu. We should always think about apa sih yang akan kira-kira be a threat to my business gitu. What will be the greatest risk gitu. A very simple example adalah Facebook acquire Instagram. Before Instagram became more famous than the Facebook platform itself. Gitu. Jadi dia bisa survive dengan cara seperti itu. Kedua adalah we should always think about sama seperti yang kedua orang ini udah bilang, the inherent value that we bring to our customers tuh nggak pernah boleh hilang dan harus selalu sustainable. Gitu. Mungkin gue ambil contoh, contoh paling gampang ada Astro ya. Astro is a quick commerce company, we deliver things in 15 minutes. We were not the only one, right? Ada kompetitor lain, and di negara lain tuh juga sudah ada lebih dulu dari kita gitu. In fact, bisnis model seperti ini harusnya Alvin tahu, itu booming setelah COVID, exactly like what you said. One hit wonder waktu COVID gitu. Tapi sayangnya banyak banget yang unfortunately mereka jadinya mesti stop, bangkrut dan segala macam gitu. I think there is one mindset that's missing sometimes, that's a frugal mindset. To begin with, you need to remember that at the end of the day, we are business, we are not non-profit. Jadi we always need to think about how we can run our business sustainably, how we can be profitable, and how kita itu menghindari the only value that we give to our customers itu adalah promotion and promotion and promotion. Because the moment you stop your promotion, customers will go away karena many other alternative, and then you die. Gitu.
So alongside with the innovation that we have, we need to be aware of the competitors in the ecosystem or in the industry in itself. So how do we promote our changes that we have delivered? How do we promote the value of our businesses are equally important as well. Thank you so much to Mr. Harvey and all of our speakers. To Sherry, is your answer or is your question answered? Yes, go ahead.
McKinsey.
Oke, jadi tadi kan sempat di-mention juga soal promosi ya. Nah, sebelumnya aku kan juga pernah punya bisnis dan waktu itu tuh pernah beberapa kali punya kayak semacam harga coretan lah ya kalau misalkan di marketplace. Contoh emang harga aslinya tuh 200.000, cuman karena kayak untuk 100 pembeli pertama itu jadi 100.000 gitu. Nah, jadinya karena keseringan punya apa ya kayak customer aku tuh tahu di awal itu pasti all shop aku itu ada semacam harganya tuh murah di awal, terus di tanggal-tanggal kembar itu juga ada promosi. Nah, kalau kayak gitu tuh jadinya penjualan di hari-hari biasa jadi menurun, gak sebanyak di hari-hari kayak tanggal kembar atau misalkan ada hari-hari libur atau pokoknya di tanggal-tanggal tertentu tuh jomplang gitu dari pendapatannya. Pokoknya, jomplang banget untuk penjualannya sendiri. Nah, untuk menghadapi hal itu gimana sih supaya customer tuh tetap mau beli di harga yang normal gitu? Terima kasih.
Thank you, Sherry, for your question. So basically, what's the right promotion strategy that maybe Sherry and the other friends here can take? Maybe from Pak Alvin?
Sorry nggak, gue cut dulu ya. Jadi ini benernya paling relevan buat dia. Soalnya istilahnya kalau di dunia tech startup namanya promo hunter. That's something that people are experiencing a lot. Tapi I will let Vincent to take the ini if it's already yeah to take the
Go ahead, Mr. Arby.
Oke, jadi ya itu relevan sekali ya. Mungkin gue juga share waktu kita pertama mulai Astro, that's exactly the first thing we experience. In fact, tahu nggak apa barangnya? Minyak, minyak, telur itu tiba-tiba kita diskonin. Like literally orang dengan jumlah yang sama ngantar terus gitu. Jadi kayak driver kita itu bisa kayak 10 orang ngantar ke tempat yang sama doang. Udah kayak juragan minyak kan tuh orang gitu. So I think questionnya adalah, aduh gimana sih kita bisa incentivize orang untuk tetap belanja even though gua nggak kasih discount gitu. Don't get me wrong, I think at certain level you need to trigger some customers to try out your product or services, makanya you kasih promo gitu. Tapi you need to always think about, selain customer bayar lebih murah, what are the value that I can bring to customers that are sustainable for my business gitu. For example di Astro 15 minutes delivery gitu. If you wanna buy ice cream in the middle of the night, I don't think you have any other option right now gitu. Jadi it's undisputable value, right? Mungkin kalau ngambil contoh yang kamu UMKM gitu ya, I don't know what you're exactly selling gitu, tapi sometimes you can always think about, not the fancy stuff gitu, tapi very basic stuff. For example kayak misalnya kirim dia beli kosmetik, kasih ada freebie sedikit dicoba tester gitu, for example ya. Terus customer service for example, kalau dia ada masalah, how you ensure that you respond them as soon as possible, resolusinya clear dan ngebantu juga. Sometimes those simple stuff ya, kita udah ngelihat ya, kalau misalnya di Astro itu if we respond faster, if we refund them ketika barangnya kurang, in fact retention mereka they will be more likely coming back to us.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. So maybe one of the strategies is not only to depend on a cheaper price of your product as a mechanism for your promotion, but find other valuable aspect that you can depend on so that your business will be sustainable as well. So maybe coming from that, I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Alvin to answer that question.
Ya sebenarnya gue baru I just realize actually Dana also at one point did a similar thing juga kan. I don't know if you remember back then Shilin 7.000 ngantri depan PP sampai ke Tuleju situ. Yes, and all that, right? But I think ultimately here's the thing, right? What is the definition of customer? Customer adalah people who purchase your goods and ultimately you can generate value. You can generate margin from it. That means there is a value that your customers are willing to pay. Kalau misalnya they're not willing to pay when the price is higher, when you're generating margin, then maybe they're not your customers. Now the questions that I have to ask to you juga sebenarnya, like how many of the real customers you have, right? And from the real customers you have you interviewed why do you keep buying my product? And then what is the demographic of that real customers? And then from the real customers udah ditanya belum, kayak dilihat belum demografinya gimana sih? How do you discover my business? What is your first motivations of testing the first purchase and making the repeat purchase? Terus yang ketiga juga kayak why don't you buy from my competitor? Right? I think those are the questions that you can ask to your real customers. Kalau misalnya yang promo hunter, ya ultimately it's not your real customer. Because you gotta understand your value before you actually double down on the marketing button.
All right. So understanding the value of your own company, for instance, can be started by knowing your customer itself, your real customer, where do they come from, and knowing more about their characteristic, and basically taking a use of that information and knowledge that you have to leverage your business in the future. Thank you so much, Mr. Alvin. And last but not least, to Mr. Dennis, do you have any answer towards Sherry's question?
I think for me, it's first of all, you need to understand the purpose. Why are you running these incentives in the first place? Is it to attract a new customer? Is it to retain a customer? So within the startup world, I think these kind of words and metrics like activation rates, retention rates, etc., is everyday kind of language for us. But when it comes to something like marketplace, I'm not sure if that's actually provided to you or not. Now, nonetheless, I would say go back to initially the core of why you run these double date campaigns. Are you getting additional value from maybe the marketplace? Because typically, if it's a double date campaign, they promise you additional traffic, for example. Are you actually getting additional traffic from that? And on the flip side, um, why do you keep continuing? Is it because there is a kind of inherent fear that if you do stop, all your customers will disappear as well? If that is a fear, then maybe that's something you want to test. It's a risk. Everything is a risk. But maybe that's something you would like to test. Maybe there is one double date campaign where you don't run a promotion, for example. But again, you as the business owner, I guess, would have to understand and acknowledge these risks and figure out what you want to do moving forward. Like, are you okay with customers only buying when there's a promotion? Or if you're not okay, what are you going to do about it? I think that's probably the initial thoughts that come to my mind.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. So do take a risk if you want to further understand how your business is doing and whether they depend on your promotions. But thank you so much to all of our speakers for your insights as well. With our remaining time, we will have one more opportunity for this participants here to ask a final question. So please do raise your hand if you have any question. Maybe the one in the back. Yeah.
Tes. Halo, perkenalkan nama saya Fitri Nuraini. Saya mahasiswa semester 2 dari Bisnis Kreatif Universitas Indonesia. Jadi pertanyaannya adalah, in the process of personal growth and seeking experience, pasti nggak semua lingkungan yang kita temui itu selalu sesuai dengan harapan dan prinsip yang udah kita punya dan kita jalanin. Ketika kita menyadari kalau lingkungan yang sudah kita temui dan kita jalani ini nggak sesuai dengan harapan kita, what course of action shall we take? Shall we accept and adapt to the environment, or will it be better to leave it? Kalau misalnya memang harus beradaptasi, adakah tips tertentu gimana cara kita bisa beradaptasi dengan lingkungan baru dan menyesuaikan, tapi tanpa kita merubah apa yang udah kita jadiin prinsip di hidup kita selama ini?
Thank you so much from City. All right. From City, yeah. Oh, Fitri. All right, thank you so much, Fitri. Please give a round of applause for her question as well. So the question is on how we find an environment that does not meet our expectation itself. And how do we deal with it? Should we leave it or do we adapt towards that particular adjustment in itself? So maybe to answer this question, I'm going to ask Mr. Dennis first. Floor is yours.
The first thing that comes to mind for me is a quote. I'm not sure if it's a quote or not, but what I do believe is that you are the average of the 5 closest people around you. And if you recognize that your environment or the people around you are not what you aspire to be, that's a change that, first step one, you have to recognize, and next step is you have to change, in my personal opinion. Now, you have to take it upon yourself to figure out what's best for you. There are lots of stories as well about if you spend time with other people that are successful, you'll be the next successful person as well. So it's great that you've kind of, maybe in your personal kind of experience, you've recognized that maybe the people around you are not, don't have the same aspirations as you. But, that's always the first step. So yeah, these are the thoughts that kind of your question provoke in my mind. But for me, yeah, just find a group of people that you align with moving forward. You'll start having conversations about things that matter to you. And then through that, again, it might be to do with accountability, your circle of friends being accountable as well. Through that, you'll be successful as well.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. At the end, it is your decision to actually change your environment or adjust. But one thing for sure, make sure that it is beneficial for you as well. So thank you, Mr. Dennis, for that. Next, we're going to ask Mr. Harvey. Do you want me to repeat the question or is it clear? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So the short answer, definitely don't compromise, right? If you have certain ambition, you have aspiration, and the people around you kayak gini lah ya. Gue punya dream to work in a startup, tapi orang sekitar lu itu semuanya nggak ada intensi kerja di startup gitu, for example. ya jangan spend 90% of your time di situ gitu. Don't compromise, right? You need to go out there. You need to find, like-minded people who has the same drive as you. Karena exactly seperti yang tadi Dennis bilang ya, you are basically the, five closest person around you gitu. My advice is gini sih, mungkin pertanyaannya, oh apakah berarti gue leave aja that group of friends gitu, kayak ya udah bye gitu kan. Eh, Mungkin gue personally juga gitu ya. I have a group of friends yang mungkin they just like to chill and etc. gitu, no ambition, and that's fine gitu. You can spend time with them, misalnya once a month, once every 2 weeks, whatsoever gitu. But then that should not be the only thing you do, karena you cannot exchange stocks. You don't know, you don't have a benchmark yang be very close with you untuk to compare against lah, basically gitu.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. So you don't necessarily have to leave them, but maybe the frequency of the time that you use to spend with them can be decreased. Thank you, Mr. Harvey, for that. And last but not least, to Mr. Alvin, on your perspective.
Um, jadi pertanyaannya apabila merasa salah lingkungan, cabut atau stay? Pada dasarnya gitu kan, if I simplify the question. Sekarang kalau lu mau makan nasi uduk, lu datang ke warung Padang, nggak ada nasi uduk, pas lu cabut kan. Jadi benernya pada dasarnya gitu juga gitu. The fact that you're actually entering that community in the first place, dan dari awal sebenarnya lu udah tahu what are you looking for in that community. The fact that you stay for a while, that means at a certain period of time you feel, oh this is aligned with my values and principles, ya kan? Terus nanti kalau ternyata mereka udah, oh kayaknya kok lama-kelamaan rasanya value and principles-nya udah mulai belok nih, it's not aligned anymore with what I'm seeking for, then I think, yeah, you can leave, you can reduce your commitment to that community, and that is fine because humans are, yeah, dynamic, right? Jadi kalau dari sisi gue sih, pada akhirnya di saat lu merasa emang kayaknya udah nggak bisa, ya mundur secara ini aja, perlahan aja nggak masalah. Tapi nanti antara you mau ghosting completely atau you mau still maintain some relationship, that really comes down to whether actually you still see some potential value that you can gather from that particular community. And value doesn't have to be monetary, doesn't have to be financial, doesn't have to be career. Sometimes it's just for your sanity. Exactly like what this gentleman said just now. You need people who are chill for your sanity juga gitu. Because life is tough.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Alvin, for that. I hope it answers your question as well. Well, due to the limited time that we have left, it is safe to say that we have answered most of your questions. And with the remaining time, I will now give the floor towards all of our speakers to give a closing statement in regards towards, for instance, tips and tricks and messages towards our aspiring entrepreneurs here today. So maybe we can start first from Mr. Harvey.
Tips in general ya, Pak?
Yes.
Tips in general, find what number one is find what you love. That's again, that's I think the whole theme of what we all three of us here talk about, right? Find what you really love and what you really believe is a significant added value to your community. And second, be ready for a lot of failures and set up yourself mentally and physically to face all of those failures and learn from those.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harvey. And maybe next, Mr. Dennis.
For me, I think, again, echoing what Javi mentioned, um, the only other thing that I'd probably add is about being persistent. Once you have these setbacks, keep driving, keep pushing forward. And again, touching on what Alvin mentioned earlier, always have this hunger to learn more. I think with these two kind of attributes, it'll help push you forward in your, whether it be in your personal career, personal life, or in your professional career as well.
Thank you, Mr. Dennis. And last but not least, to Mr. Alvin, do you have any messages towards our aspiring entrepreneurs?
Ya nomor satu benar, keep learning. Ya, harus belajar terus. Never feel complacent. Especially a lot of you are right now in the reputable universities. Just maximize your learning opportunities because you're surrounded by amazing people around you. Just try to learn from them. Just because their IPK maybe 1 koma, not necessarily mean you cannot learn anything from that person, right? But also I think more importantly, humility. maintain your humility. Kenapa? Karena just because you have achieved success once in your life, that's not gonna guarantee that you're gonna be successful for the rest of your life. And we have seen this, right? Like from all the examples that I mentioned before, Nokia, and then what else? Clubhouse. Dulu juga kita ada MySpace, right? I think a lot of things that happen. So just cuma karena lagi di atas, jangan lupa pernah di bawah, and always trust the process, always be kind to others.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alvin. Once again, let's give a round of applause towards our amazing speakers here today. If I may conclude, when starting a business, make sure that you actually solve real world problems, real world concerns. And in finding that, you can do the simplest thing by conducting desktop research, finding connections, and also talking to as much as people as you know. In addition to this, when facing your journey as an entrepreneur, do make sure and do realize that there will be a lot of challenges and obstacles. But what's most important is that we face those challenges with confidence. We can rise back up and not give up at the very least. So thank you so much once again towards our amazing speakers. On behalf of the committee, we do hope that this talk show and this panel discussion have broadened your insights and your knowledge in starting your own journey. We look forward in your own journey and we wish forward towards the best and success towards your own entrepreneur journey in itself. That being said, as the moderator of today, I would like to officially put this panel discussion to an end. Once again, let's give a round of applause towards all of our speakers. And thank you so much towards all of our participants here today for being very enthusiastic towards our discussion today. With this, I give the floor back to the MC. Thank you so much.
All right, can we have another round of applause for all panelists along with our moderator for today's very fruitful and inspiring discussion. Thank you very much to all speakers and our lovely moderator here for today's discussion. I would kindly ask you to remain on stage since we are going to have an award of certificate of appreciation for your presence. With that, I would like to invite Wakil Ketua BEM UI 2023, Shiva Anindya Hartono, to come up on stage to honor the certificate of appreciation to our panelists. Our first awardee will be given to Mr. Alvin. Alvin Cahyadi is a VP of Investment of AZ Ventures. Please come forward and take a picture. Look to the camera over there. Second, we will give the token of appreciation to Dennis Jatmatama as a VP of Business of Dana. Thank you. Next, we're going to have an honor of another panelist, Harvey Chupak, VP of Products of Astro. Thank you to all panelists. And now, last but not least, please give another round of applause to our amazing moderator here, Alia Ilisia, a law student at University of Indonesia, as one of your representatives. With that, I would like to invite all panelists and our moderator to come to the front to take a group picture, along with Shiva as Wakil BEM. Thank you very much to all speakers and our moderator once again. And thank you so much everyone for joining us today on our very insightful session, remarkable session. And earlier in this event, we asked the audience a question, if you remember. And the question was, which of the following is not an advantage of entrepreneurship? And the correct answer to that is D, lack of stress. Shout out to today's lucky one at Sharon Florencia from Instagram for answering correctly. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating in our social media quiz. Don't forget to tune next time and catch a chance to get a live shout out from us. If you find this event very insightful, you can also subscribe to be our member on our website at www.atamerica.or.id. And also, if you do have an event idea to be featured here in America, feel free to submit your proposals to our website and we will make it for you. Also, follow us on our social media platforms. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at AT America for interesting contents, giveaways, and so much more. Also, click the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. With that, it is time to say farewell. Thank you so much, everyone, again for joining us today. My name is Hasna. See you on the next At America event. Bye bye, everybody.